Hello and welcome to Module 8. We made it, guys. Congratulations. So this is going to cover chapters 14 and 15. There is no quiz for this module, just a written assignment. So hopefully I just want to talk about a few things just for your own personal knowledge, or maybe it'll help you with your discussion questions or the written assignment. So moving right along, chapter 14. This is the chapter where you had all of those short readings that you could choose from, or maybe you read all of them. So I'm just going to touch upon them pretty quickly. So the first one was Changing Minds, Changing Lives. This was Kij Burns, a speech and language therapist at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital in London. They treat patients with acute events like stroke, head injury, burns, MS, cancer, HIV, stuff like that. This one might have been good if you are going into nursing, physician's assistant, any of those types of programs, or just interested in the medical field in general. This one might be a good one to check out. So they did talk a little bit about the medical model. There was the case of Bill, who was 63 when he had a stroke. And the outcomes of this study were 95% patient satisfaction. So that is a really good statistic. The second one was the WOW program in Fort Lauderdale. And this one talked about working with entire classrooms and seeing like what worked for classes and teachers, like what's going right in the classroom. So the outcomes for that were a little bit more informal observations. So there were teacher reports, testimonials, stuff like that. But it did show that 97% of teachers who used it reported that it is somewhat or very effective. And over 60% are using exception questions and scaling questions. So that is definitely interesting. So, all right, the third one is Solutions for Bullying in Primary Schools, Hull, England. So this one was talking about schools and bullying. There were 50 cases that were examined. 80% were immediately successful and 14% delayed success, and then the remaining 3 were limited success. The fourth one is Solution-Focused Reentry and Transition Planning for Imprisoned People, Loren Walker, Hawaii. I have always kind of had a soft spot for like this whole transitioning inmates back into society and stuff like that. Always found an interest in that. So this one did talk about restorative justice outside of the criminal justice system, and 100% of the 320 participants said it was positive. So that is fantastic. Recidivism rates of 30%, but if they were out of the criminal justice for 2 years or longer, versus 54.7% for those who out for 3 years or longer. So those were the results of that study. The fifth one was It's a Matter of Choice, Steve Deschazier and Luc Isabert, St. John's Hospital, Belgium. This one talked about alcohol abuse, abstinence versus control. There were 132 former inpatients. Out of the patients, 13 died, 45% were abstinent, 30% successful in controlled drinking, and 14% did not achieve either goal. The sixth one was the Plumas Project, Solution-Focused Treatment of Domestic Violence Offenders, and that was in Plumas County. This one was talking about domestic violence offenders, the recidivism rate of 17% after 14 years of data collection, and that was compared with 20 to 50% in the year after the program completion, and a program completion rate of 93% compared with 50 to 60%. The seventh one was solution-focused supervision. If you have any interest in supervision at all, this might be a good one to check out. This is where INSU talks about how you can use solution-focused in supervision settings. So that might be a good one for you. And then the last one is Solutions for Reading, and this was Work in a Town of West London. They were working for a change in community through the use of solution-focused terms to improve parenting, schools, and emotional well-being. So that was chapter 14. And then we have our last chapter, chapter 15. I'll go over a few things quickly for you. So this one talked about theoretical implications. So when we're kind of tying everything together, we all want to understand meanings. So this is why we do the work that we do. We all want to understand the meaning. However, it is important, as you've learned from reading this textbook, is that we don't want to ask the question why. Experience has taught us that this isn't useful or helpful for our clients. It has been shown that our clients will build more efficient solutions when they are not asked to analyze why they have problems or why solutions might work. But there's more progress if everyone remains from like a not knowing standpoint instead of asking why. So my question is, were solution-focused techniques derived from theory? No. Instead, they were from observation and what worked. And that's a question we ask our clients too. What worked? What have you tried that has worked? Stuff like that. Do people's understandings or explanations for their behavior remain static? No, they don't. They don't always stay the same. If we look back to the case with a yawn, for an example, it moved from I'm crazy to I got to figure out what's wrong with me, to my problem is when there are a lot of people around, to I never talk, always keeping everything inside. So things change throughout the duration. So make sure you're listening for that. And if you listen carefully over the course of your treatment with your client, then you too will see this change in their shift in perception, which is kind of cool to see. So what theory accounts for these shifts, these changes in perceptions or understanding? This would be social constructionism. Social constructionism is people's sense of what is real. It's including their problems, their strengths, their solutions, and it's all constructed in interaction with others. So people make their meanings as they interact with others. If you ever think about like even just experience in general can help people learn. So that would be kind of like what that is explaining there. So how do we construct this meaning? We can get it through conversation with other people in families, like maybe, ethnicity, socioeconomic, religious, cultural groups, your neighborhood, communities, and nations. Each person reflects the realities of all of these different relationships that I just mentioned. The professional's expertise is to be in conversation with the expertise of the person. So we're learning from our conversation with our person. And they are the expert of themselves, not us being an expert of them. So do you think, is a person's problem a thing that we can know objectively and stays put? No, it is the result of their current definitions of reality. Again, things are always changing. So what their problem is their current perception of what reality is. Do persons build the same solutions to the same problem that another person may have? Nope. Case by case basis. Just because one person comes in with a problem doesn't mean that the next person who comes in with that same problem is going to have like the same idea behind it, and the same solution may not work for that person, which is kind of what I think is really cool and makes all of this very unique. So just putting that out there, solution building does work for different situations. It works for different people. And, because of the fact that it is coming from the person's standpoint. So you are working where that client is, you are building things that, through conversation with your client. And that's kind of one of the unique things about why solution building can be successful, because you pretty much are just building your client up and you are helping them. So I hope that this textbook has been helpful. I know that there are a lot of chapters and, you learned a lot of things, but I feel that it kind of goes in depth and really does a good job at explaining. So hopefully you feel the same way and hope that this course has been helpful for you. Thank you for watching.